Welcome back, adventurers, to the Greyhorn Valley, the chaotic borderland that languishes in the shadow of the Grendleroot, the great towering black spires that paint the landscape wherever you look, wherever you go. And you've started to unravel some of the mysteries surrounding the Grendleroot. You've been in the valley only a short time now, but you've been here long enough to know that this place needs heroes, and that there are many ancient, forgotten secrets waiting to be plundered, including mysterious enemies. But today, you're tackling the most pressing issue facing the valley, which would be the Black Scarves, a gang of bloodthirsty bandits that terrorize the village of Lodingen and the surrounds, preventing the villagers of the valley from contacting one another, rendering aid, or even engaging in trade. The bandits have a stranglehold on this region, and you're finally in a position to do something about it. We start this session with you having returned from plundering the Spider Caverns. You rescued a boyish thief by the name of Bruin, and Llewellyn convinced him that it would be in his best interest to turn himself in to the authorities willingly. Because he was shown kindness and mercy, he learned a lot about the Black Scarves, about their once bloody history, and about their new leader, Brun, the scheming brother of their original leader, Rowan, who has convinced the group to turn back to their old ways of banditry rather than trying to live off the land. And so we open this session with you all assembled in the meeting room in the Lord's Keep. Baron Marlon Montburn stands at the head of the table as per usual littered with maps and charts and little wooden figurines representing bandits and monsters and various other entities of note in the valley. And his sheriff, the leader of the guard, Chandra Willowmane, stands next to him, her arms folded, her lips pursed as she silently analyzes the charts before her, trying to determine the best course of action. It's been a couple days since you returned from your last adventure. You've had plenty of time to rest and recover, and although you haven't spent much time just living your lives in the town, you've had your attention focused on these bandits and their tower and how you're going to take them down. You've been out and about enough that the people of Lodingen are starting to recognize you, starting to accept you as usual faces that pop up in their places of business, past them in the market square. And you've been given enough flashed smiles of encouragement and knowing glances from the townsfolk that you feel now a genuine desire to do the right thing by them. The Baron clears his throat. Well, all the intelligence we have and all the intelligence you've brought us suggests that now would be the best time to assault the bandits' hideout. Of course, they are holed up in the Imperial Observatory. It's quite enough of a ways from here that you'll need to prepare before setting out on your journey. There is also the matter of the wild animals, and whatever malady has afflicted them, turned them to this business of hunting and killing and bloodlust. But I think we're in agreement when we say that the Black Scarves need to be routed, and fast, and with them out of the way, we can finally turn our attention to other matters. He exchanges a glance with Chandra, and she nods in agreement. And then she eyes each of you in turn, clears her own throat, and says, well, you're the ones who've been out there, boots on the ground, adventuring, taking names, learning all these things. And so I ask you, do you feel you are prepared to assault the bandits' tower and finally bring them to heel?
Cap looks to her friends on either side. She nods and tilts her masked face. I don't see why it wouldn't be. I think we're about as ready as we can be. Unless anyone else has any preparations to make.
Well, to be candid, until we see and reconnoiter, that question is meaningless.
Llewellyn. The best plans never survive first contact with the enemy.
Yes, but I'm not allowing my friends here to make a commitment that they will get something done when we have yet to actually identify the task, the size of the fish. It could very well be a whale. We'll go and look, and we'll see what we can see.
Sir Llewellyn raises a valid point, says the Baron, stroking the tip of his moustache, and thought, we know where the tower is, and you've fought more than enough of the bandits to know what they're capable of, but it is true that none have been inside. The razor wire around the base of the hill has prevented all but the bandits from coming and going, and our knowledge of what actually awaits you within the tower is, well, I won't sugarcoat it, non-existent. That said, the effort that you'll expend journeying to the tower, and the fact that the bandits will by now certainly know that you are here in the valley and that you are working against them, means that you won't have a lot of time to reconnoiter properly, at least not enough time to assemble a proper force. I was hoping to get some of the militia involved to help you, but well, if we don't know what's in the tower, I think it best that a smaller group, you only, go in and deal with this. Strike while the iron is hot, as the town blacksmith says. And he grumbles under his breath, and then he says, and let's not forget you're officially in the employ of the crown.
Pardon Llewellyn, of course.
Yes, I'm not.
But he's more so serving to act alongside me, maybe. She flashes a smile under the mask.
What I was getting at, he says, is that the Grand Duchess would be most displeased if the bandits were not snuffed out at the first possible opportunity. I hear she'll be sending an envoy within the month to see if the situation within the valley has improved. And the possibility of this village receiving more aid from the crown rests entirely on whether her envoy is satisfied that the bandits no longer pose a threat, and that it is safe to pour resources into the valley, as it were. Now, Sir Llewellyn, I understand that you are not technically in the employ of the crown, but you are here with your companions who are, and thus you have a duty compelling you to do the right thing by this village. However, the people of this town have come to rely upon you and see you as a force of good, so I would hope that you all have your own personal reasons for engaging in this fight, taking up arms for this town, not simply because there is a contract you signed with your name on it.
interesting you mention that. I have written a letter. I was wondering if you could have passed on to the Grand Duchess. Here it is.
Takes the envelope and...
Oh no, it's just a letter. It's not.
A letter?
He doesn't have an envelope or anything like that. I've got written down on my character sheet paper. I don't have stationery or anything.
Okay, so he takes...
The Baron is going to see this absolute smashing and bollocksing of her performance, and how profoundly, grossly inept and incompetent and unworthy she is. And every sentence has at least 2 or 3 four-letter words in it that he's just put a line through to make it seem as if, no, I didn't call you that. And it is impugning her rather markedly for not sending a force of 40 or 50 soldiers to come and deal with this problem. That she knows is happening.
And he unfurls the piece of parchment and he reads all of this, and you see his normally austere face sort of crack and twist into an amused smile the further he gets. And it's clear that he agrees with the vast majority of what you've written, but when he's finished, he just calmly folds the piece of paper in half. And he says, well, I'll hold off on sending this until we can prove that you, band of adventurers, can get things done where she and her lot have languished for decades. Should you return triumphant from your battle against the Black Scarves, I will indeed put my own stamp, my own mark and insignia upon it. And I will personally have it presented to the Duchess's envoy when he arrives.
You realize that's actually contrary. You see, if the forces that she did dispatch somehow managed to resolve this, then it makes that, and he points to the letter, wrong.
But so Ellen, what if the story was twisted? What if a lone hero like yourself had guided this band of riffraff through the tower itself? Now, wouldn't
no.
I
am not guiding. I am following the 3 of you.
Oh, he's such a good leader. Capier is purposefully ignoring his his commentary. A real well-written blood, I think. Wouldn't you agree, Baron?
This incredibly bright light starts shining out the back of Capier's ass.
Lord Montburn chuckles, and he just says, If a lone hero is able to rally a group of riffraff into handling problems that the Crown could have resolved with a minimum of effort decades ago, then I will say that this letter is a perfectly valid expression of frustration and a vote of no confidence. You're here. The Crown has provided no direct assistance to you. You've accomplished everything you've accomplished here entirely on your own, and should you continue to do so, I would say that that is evidence that the Crown is not necessary for this valley and its people to thrive at all.
No, that's a better argument than the one I made. And he reaches, give it back.
He doesn't give it back to you. He instead slides it into the folds of his robes and smiles, and he says, I just wanted to be sure that you were doing this because you had your hearts in the right place, and not simply because a duchess who sits on her throne all day offered you a large sum of gold, and I'm satisfied that should this become an issue, I can count on you to back me up. After all, if you've taken down the bandits, you'll have some claim to fame to bolster your names. He smiles as schemes unvoiced run through his brain. Then he folds his arms again and he says, well, this is all for discussion after you return victorious from routing the bandits. He exchanges one more glance with Chandra. She nods. And then she turns to Villy. And she says, I understand your interest lies with the wildlife, the wolves, the bears, and whatever has them in their current state. And you consider this quite the pressing issue. And so I would like... Yes, Bridget, that's right. Sorry. She turns to Bridget, and as she turns to Bridget, Igor sort of perks up. He sniffs. His head pops up over the rim of the table. He starts sniffing around, and his ears perk up as he can feel her attention being cast upon you. And she says, I understand you would rather put right what is wrong with the animals, but I'm sure you'll agree that the bandits most likely have a hand in the madness. And rather than spending our time journeying into the wilderness to pinpoint the cause of this madness, it would be well served that you take on the bandits first. And if my suspicions are correct, you will find more information and more leads that will assist you in your investigation of the animals.
I mean, who's to say if they weren't able to twist those razor vines to their will, that they wouldn't be able to do the same with the animals?
My thoughts exactly, she says. So, Bridget, I understand that your Order of Blood Hunters has a very specific criteria for what monsters you hunt, and simply taking the fight to run-of-the-mill brigands and bandits might not be exactly what you had in mind when you signed up for your duty here. So I'd like to
Baron,
make sure...
Can I interrupt you just very briefly, please? Just a moment. Bridget, you of course understand that this group of bandits is acting like a pack of dire wolves, and they are predating on the wildlife at a rate that is absolutely unendurable by this area of wilderness. This is like 50 wolves having suddenly descended on an area. You would agree with that assessment?
I would say they do not deserve the comparison as majestic as wolves. They are more like prey. I hunt prey.
My point is they will be killing and culling the deer, the duck, the grouse. They will be carving through the wildlife because they cannot rely on agriculture.
Suffice to say, they are as much a blight on the land as these twisted shards that pockmark it.
That is to say, says Chandra, as she motions towards the map on the table, and there are two wooden markers, one of a tower that's placed slightly northeast of the town across the river, and another of a crudely carved dire wolf that's placed somewhere in the hills and scrubland to the west. And she says, I don't wish to overstep the Baron's authority here, but it is my understanding that you have intelligence suggesting that the animals are mainly striking from somewhere to the west, in the direction of the old dwarven vault. And the bandit's tower is, of course, in the opposite direction. And so I wanted to figure out what your plan is. And I wanted to suggest a two-pronged approach, she says, holding up her hand to signal that you should hear her out. She says, if you are willing to prepare for a long journey, you might be able to take the Dwarven Vault or the tower, then the other, in quick succession. If the madness is gripping the animals and the banditry are serving the same purpose, taking one out and then waiting before investigating the other may give whoever is behind these events, if there is such a person, time to plan and scheme and prepare. But if you were to take them out in quick succession, she raises her hands in the air, then I think we would be the ones who have time to prepare and scheme and plan, while the person behind this is scrambling to pick up the pieces.
Ah, yes, a double time, a finale, a crescendo. Fantastic. What a lovely idea. What a thrilling conclusion that would be to this little play we put on here.
This is all mood, of course, says the Baron, cutting her off. If we cannot even get into the bandit tower, and, as per the Dwarven Vault, he meets her eyes, we know nothing about what awaits there at all, other than that the animals are coming from that direction. Nobody's been in those old Dwarven ruins for centuries and lived to tell the tale. I think the tower is the safer option, but it is all moot unless we have a means of bypassing the Razorvine. At this, he looks over at our resident druid. He raises his eyebrows and he says, "And, Lady Druid, did your last expedition prove useful? It is sad that the Filter will no longer be around to meet the needs of the villagers with regards to potions, but did you find what you need to brew a countermeasure against the Razorvines?"
Yes, we did. I need a lot of things.
And she is just like looking for bushes to go look for some herbs.
Yeah, the Baron snaps his fingers, and immediately the door of the chamber opens, and Gavin, the dwarf from the trading post, comes in, and he's slung over his shoulder a big hessian sack, and with his other hand is dragging a wooden wagon behind him, grumbling as he does her. "Get me to get all this out of storage, all of it. Open all the storage, get out all these bloody things that nobody has any use for anymore," and he parks the wagon in front of you, and then slams the hessian sack down on the table, pulls the drawstring open, and you see that both the wagon and the sack are filled with an assortment of dried herbs, vials, mushrooms, and other reagents. He says the only customer who was interested in these was Bathilda, and now you say she's gone and bought a ticket. I suppose I should just leave all this in your care.
Well, thank you then. And she's gonna take the herbs, and she is like looking through it all, trying to figure out what she needs.
The Baron smiles and he says, "I'm sure you'll find what you need there. Despite his grumbling, Gavin has quite the collection. And as I understand it, based on your report upon returning, the mushrooms in the spider's nest are the main ingredient anyway." He stands, motions for Chandra to follow him. "We'll leave you here to prepare, discuss your last-minute plans, and when you're ready, you may leave. You may set out on your journey. Gavin is waiting out in the entrance hall, and he'll have brought some of his inventory with him if there are any supplies you need to purchase before setting out. Any more preparations you need to make, I leave in your hand." He bows and sweeps his cloak around him, and then he and Chandra depart from the room, shutting the door behind them.
And I thought I was able to spin a tale. Those two, they never seem to run out of words.
Well, one's a politician.
Yes.
So, Leilani, there is a huge assortment of things here. Most of it's common stuff that you could find at any general store, stuff that you could pick out in the fields just by wandering out of town, stuff that grows pretty much everywhere. But there is some stuff here that's quite rare as well, and you think that if you manage to get the reagent to combat the razor vines done efficiently enough, you might be able to repurpose some of these ingredients for other mixtures down the line, which will save you some money and give you some boosts on skill checks when you go to mix stuff in the future. But of course, that all depends on how well you manage to brew the potion that you're here to make right now. So, go ahead, Leilani. And you have proficiency in herbalist tools, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And as she's picking through the different bits and pieces, Capiera dances between the sprigs of mint and grabbings of blackberries and etc., and begins regaling her with a tale of a brewer long lost, giving her a bardic inspiration.
You sing a ballad of a man who hit rock bottom and then brewed a potion that took the nation by storm, securing his fame and fortune for generations to come. So you have guidance, Leilani. Go ahead and roll me a herbalism tools check.
Right, that's a D6 of inspiration, I do believe.
Correct,
yes. And the DC I'm looking for will be 12 to brew the thing, but if you can get at least 16, you can save some of the ingredients.
Well, I rolled a 5 on the D6.
Oh no.
Ooh.
I have
wow.
a proficiency of 2, and I rolled a 17.
Fantastic.
Very nice. You're not sure how
That's,
long... how much altogether?
24.
24. You're not sure how long it would normally take someone to brew this sort of thing, but Leilani works fast. It only takes her about 10 minutes to find exactly what she's looking for, stick them all in the mixing pot, get the mortar and pestle out, and she's pounding at it, working furiously, muttering under her breath as she measures all the different components. And as she mixes, you all can't help but notice that a vaguely piss-stained scent begins to emanate in the room. The ammonia from the mushrooms, which is the main reagent in the mix, causes you to wrinkle your noses in disgust. And you wonder if it was worth going to all this trouble when you're just going to smell this bad anyway. But, Leilani, you were successful. You managed to make the brew, more than enough of it to sustain the party and get them through that field of Razorvine. And you rolled so well that while you're working on it, you have enough ingredients pushed off to the side that you think you might be able to get a second concoction going and work on the two together. Is there any potion in particular you would like to make?
Well, what recipes did I have?
Well, you could make an antidote for poisons, you could make a healing potion, you could try your hand at brewing a potion you've never brewed before and see what comes out. Just what sort of effect would you like your concoction to have?
Right, I'm gonna, what type of herbs do I have? Is there anything that's like...
Make a nature check for me.
Okay. Well, that's a 4. Nothing. It's bad in nature.
You vaguely recognize some of them from your druid training, fragments of memory, half remembered floating in your mind, but you don't know what in particular most of these are used for. It would be fairly easy for you to make a potion of healing out of it, because you can substitute many of the ingredients for other ones. It's a very easy potion to make. But you think And this is just a feeling in the back of your mind eating at you, pushing you to do this, some half-remembered druid reflex. There is something pushing you to take a very specific set of these ingredients and mix them all up together, but you're not exactly sure what will pop out, nor how hard it will be, or whether you'll get it right. So basically, you could choose to make a potion of healing, a potion of antidote, or you can try for something much more potent and useful, but there won't be a guarantee that you'll get it right.
Right, I'm gonna grab. So she looks at the party. She probably talks to Bridget more specifically, and she's like, Bridget, darling, I have a choice to make here, and I need some help. I could benefit someone in the party with something that might be able to heal some wounds. Or I could try something a little more potent.
I do believe we will have need of healing in future.
Yeah, I suppose I've already got a potion of healing. I can use that on someone else. I think I'm gonna go with the thing that's a little more potent in my mind.
Half-remembered knowledge guides you. You remember that this herb is potent and used for something, and that this one has this effect, and you're not sure what you're making, but a sickly... Go ahead.
She's gonna put her inspiration into this one.
Ah, wow. A sickly sweet aroma begins to fill the room as the little cauldron bubbles in the corner, and something vaguely reddish begins to form out of the congealed mess inside. It doesn't look inedible. It doesn't look poisonous. Go ahead and make me another herbalism kit check, and we'll see what you manage to come up with.
Yeah, I'm not going to take my inspiration. I'll take that roll that I did on the dice that I thought was cursed. Natural 20 plus 2.
Natural 20 plus 2.
I rolled the cursed die.
Leilani, you seem to you seem to have gone wrong somewhere, or at least that's what you think at first, because what was a thick red goop bubbling away in the cauldron a few minutes later is clear and watery, and when you turn the cauldron off and bottle the mixture, the bottle looks nearly empty. The liquid is so clear. You uncork it, sniff it, and it seems to have no aroma anymore whatsoever.
Almost as if it was invisible to the senses.
Almost as if it's invisible to the senses.
Yeah, she's gonna take that potion and she's gonna put it in her bag.
There's little left of Gavin's ingredients now. A couple dregs, commonly used herbs, and you assume he probably won't be wanting them back, so you just file them all into your herbalism kit, throw the empty Hessian sack aside, and stand up and take a stretch after your work. Is there anything else the party would like to do to prepare before they set out?
Do we think that double speed attack on both fronts was a good idea? I wouldn't be opposed to it personally.
And if so, which one would you like to tackle first?
I personally would like to go for the tower first, and then the dwarven keep. I think the bandits pose a much more immediate problem.
Bear in mind, if this is what you would like to do, then you will have to prepare to not return to town in quite some time, because both the Dwarven Vault and the tower are at least about a day and a half journey. Llewellyn nods. Tower. then vault if we're going to do both of them, as Adam's typed in the chat. Bridget, as the one who's interested as the hunter of the group, as the one who's effectively leading this little expedition, what do you think?
These bandits behave like prey. Prey runs. I believe the tower is the best start.
Seems we're in agreement then. No disagreement from you, I assume? Ilani?
Ilani just... Yep, shakes her head, shrugs.
Well, then I will see to the shopkeep in the front hall and get us some supplies, and then we shall be able to head out. Sound good?
And it's done. You'll stand up, take one last look at your gear, shoulder your bags, and step out into the main hall of the Lord's Keep, this big, open, stone chamber. And even in the warmer parts of the year, this keep is cold and drafty. And Gavin's sort of in the corner near the entrance. He's gathered in a little lounge area where people who are waiting to see the Baron would normally be. And he's laid out a selection of his wares across the tiny coffee table, which seems to be about to collapse under the weight of all these boxes and crates and bags. He eyes you as you approach, Capiera, and he gruffly says, you better buy something. Seeing I've taken the effort of carting all this stuff all the way up here.
Capiera is folding a golden coin between each of her fingers, and then flicks it in the air before it lands on the table before him, and she continues to hand out the coins. 12 rations, please.
12 rations, 12. He counts them out. 10, 11, 12. Here you are. Planning a long trip then, are you?
Yes, we're making some haste. It seems that well, how would you describe it? Our editors asked for an advance copy of the story, so we're pushing it along.
Aye, it's what Miss Chandra said when she came down to the trade post. Said to get all my gear up, get it up to the castle, so you could be on your way without messing about in town.
Well then, she's a good planner, good foresight.
So there's your rations, and he gestures at all the other stuff he's got lined out. I've got quite a good selection of things here. Anything else you want?
Quick question, I assume normal cost apply?
Normal costs do apply. It's just that he won't have access to his full inventory because he's not in his store. But he probably has most of what you'd want to ask for.
Anyone else need anything that we should get?
Well, let's see. Let's run off a list of adventuring essentials, he says, marking them on his fingers. You got lanterns, you got rope, flint and tinder, food. You're going to be going up against the bandits, aren't you? So maybe something in case you run into a spot of trouble. That night fellow, what follows you around, I noticed he's got a first aid kit of some description. Maybe he might like to top up his supplies.
She'll look over to Llewellyn. Do you need anything? Good night. Anything to fill your aid kit, as suggested?
You'll have a few uses on your healer's kit, don't you, Llewellyn?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he's actually carrying multiple healers kits.
Oh, goodness, right.
You reach in and you reach in and you pull out one and then another and then another and
he just says, "I'm good."
Gavin
shoves it back
shakes.
into a bag.
Gavin shakes his head and he shrugs. He says, "Well, that would certainly be enough for most situations, I think. Sure you don't want a fourth or a fifth one?
He nearly needs an index to just go through his backpack. Don't worry, it fits it all.
Now, in all seriousness, and he looks you up and down, Capiera and then Llewellyn, you've been out on the road a bit. Your weapons and armor have seen some action. And, well, I happen to be a bit of adept blacksmith myself, and he gestures towards the cart, and there are some swords and pikes and a shield balanced on top of it. Looking for anything in the way of equipment, just to make sure you're outfitted to the best you can be before venturing out into the jaws of danger, as it were.
Have you got a flame tongue for sale?
Fresh out, he says. Sold me last one last week.
Well,
Well, that's 35 gold I won't be giving you then.
If you're in the market for a good new sword, a shield, some chainmail, plate perhaps.
Points to the incredibly old, outdated, heavy chainmail and the rather beat-up old flail he's lugging around. I'm good.
Well, suit yourself. I suppose it served you well thus far, so I won't make any judgments about its effectiveness, even though it looks like it could use a bit of love and care. He begins to bundle all of his stuff back into the wagon. Well, I'd best be off back to me shop then. Rest of the town's been waiting on their necessities, and I'll wish you all genuine good luck. And at this, his eyes twinkle. You managed to take these bandits out, and I'll be able to expand my inventory, get in touch with my counterparts in the other villages, and, well, maybe I'll have a bit of a better selection for you. Maybe I really will have a flame tongue next time.
Oh, and surely if we help your business so greatly, a better price, no?
Capiera, go ahead and make a persuade check for me.
Happy to. I have a
You're
plus
trying
5
to
in those.
make Gavin the party's permanent sponsor.
That's a 17.
He shrugs. Well, come back alive first. Then we'll talk, but he winks. Now, not every day people go up against a group like the Black Scarves and come back unscathed. So you prove that you ain't all talk, and I'll be happy to sponsor you. Be good for business.
No,
Having
not just talk. I dance as well. Haven't you seen? She giggles to herself.
Oh, I've heard.
Does Gavin look like the sort of fellow who can endure standing watching Capiera dance? Or is he going to have health issues?
You have the upbringing, Llewellyn, to recognize that Gavin has not a single shred in the entire fiber of his being that would let him have the patience to appreciate the performing arts. He's the type of old guy who would see live entertainment as a good opportunity to make himself comfortable and have a nap.
Or to water the drinks. Okay.
Or to water the drinks.
He's going to check that Bridget and Lilani have gotten everything that they need.
Yeah. Bridget, Lilani, are there any things you'd like to buy before you head out?
Leilani's pretty good. I think she's probably just gathering any herbs that she probably could.
Yeah, she'll pick some
Find
along the
around.
way. Well, she's bundled most of what he had into her kit, but you'll be on the road, and there'll be a chance to pick more herbs on the way, you think. You're a druid. You're not used to being reliant on shopkeepers. You were trained to be self-sufficient, so you just shrug and nod. And Bridget, is there anything you'd like?
Bridget is currently saving her coin.
Good idea. Adam, go ahead.
If any of the three of you are finding your packs are overly heavy, just let me know. I'm happy to carry stuff.
Well,
for example, Gavin, that apothecary portable apothecary case. How much would that be?
oh yes. He looks over at the box of vials and mortar and pestle and things that you use for alchemy, and he says, well, suppose with Bathilda out of the way, I don't suppose many in town would like to take their hand to potion making, so I'd be happy to let it go for what I paid for it. A little more, perhaps.
Leilani, is this something that would be useful for you and your herbs?
Leilani, the tools that he has in his collection are perhaps a bit better than your tools. Your tools have been with you for a long time. They're a little bit rusty. The metal, the scales are kind of bent a little bit, and you've made it work for you. But a shiny new kit would definitely give you a boost if you wanted it.
A new kit would be nice, but not entirely needed. I can work with what I've got, but newer tools make it a little easier.
Motions to Gavin to hand it over, and I pull out some gold and I say, how much?
Well, I did pay a pretty penny for it, but I suppose...
So we're talking pennies. Wonderful. Move the copper out of the way, or move the gold out of the way, and start pulling out the copper.
He rolls his eyes and he says, 10 gold will do it.
Hand it to him. Clap him on the shoulder. I'll keep an eye out for something to recover for you.
Here you are, lady. And he pushes the box with the tools across the table towards Leilani. Well, that's a load off me back, I suppose, getting all this stuff back to the shop. Tell you what. He winks once again at Capiera. You come back in one piece, and I'll admit it's good for business for the local heroes to be using me as their outfitter, and we'll work out a discount. No problems there.
So good to meet a man of reason.
Less reason and more good business sense. Well, I'll be off then, and may Moradin watch over you and protect you from the slings and arrows, yada yada yada. He hoists what's left of his selection into a bag over his shoulder, locks the wagon up, and begins to wheel it towards the door. And finally, you're just about to leave, and you're making your way through the courtyard of the Baron's Keep when a voice calls out, "Hey, you! Sir Llewellyn, wait a minute!"
Turn around.
Roll your eyes as you turn around, Sir Llewellyn, for before you stands Chadston, the boyish guard. His armor is lopsided on his body. He's not even trying to hold his spear in any way that would make it ready at a moment's notice, but his eyes are gleaming with awe and importance. He presses a little black box into your arms. Lady Chandra said to give this to you before you left. Said if I ran, I'd catch you before you got out of town. It's from that bandit, the one you said you made turn himself in, Bruin, he says, remembering the name. Well, before he turned himself in, he paid a visit to one of the bandits' treasure caches dug the treasure out, brought it with him as a peace offering. Now the gold, Miss Willowmane appropriated that for the village and the people within, but this ain't gonna be used to anyone in the village. This is something adventurers would make use of, so she said, here, Chadston, take this, run over and bring it to Sir Llewellyn as thanks for a job well done. And then he stands there, his eyes gleaming expectantly as he waits for you to open it in front of him so he can finally see what's inside.
Still being new and not having learned some of the cunning tricks that Capiera and Lalani and Bridget know, he's gonna just foolishly open the box.
Oh.
The catch is undone, and then you push the box open, and this box that's about the size of a shoebox is nearly completely empty, save for what looks like 2 silver earrings pressed into a cushioned little alcove at the bottom. Each of them is in a separate design. The pair don't seem to be symmetrical. The left earring is in the design of what looks like a broadsword, while the one on the right is in the design of a shield. Oh, that's it, says Chadston, taking a look inside the box. Oh, that's jewellery. That's for girls, that is. And yet, as you hold the box in your hand, Llewellyn, you can feel the unmistakable thrum of magic.
He's gonna look at the others and he says, I suspect that these are enchanted. Does anybody have any insights?
Does anyone have any arcana they'd like to use to try to identify them? None at all?
Sorry, my mic was muted.
You were muted.
Would I be able to use an identified DG?
You can. Are you happy with spending that spell slot?
I don't have much combative spells to begin with, but...
Or we could ritual it.
I don't think bards have ritual casting.
I do, in fact.
Ah, well, you've got enough time. Capiera takes the box and she places it in the middle of a little chalk circle on the floor, but rather than reciting the incantation and waving her arms around in the manner of a wizard, what does she do instead?
Capiera is more so plucking out, moving her body to sort of pull the weave down towards it, plucking at the, what's the word? Pulling at the streams of the magic that exists throughout the world towards this thing to sort of coax the flavor of magic that it is out from it in an identifiable way.
Taking that, trying to sort of speak to the soul of the magic, make a connection with it and coax it into revealing itself. The whole box shimmers bright blue with magical energy, and you are suddenly certain that you are looking at a pair of earrings of message. It's a wondrous item. It doesn't require attunement. But the earring has 5 charges, and while wearing it, you can expend an action to spend 1 charge and cast the message spell, and it regains 1d4 plus 1 expended charges daily at dawn.
Ooh.
It is, in your estimation, a very handy way of communicating over long distances conveniently, and also communicating without letting anyone know that you are. Wow! And then those little earrings, they can do all that, says Chadston. Like talking telekinetically, you know? Or is it telepathically? You know, where you hear the voice in your mind. Oh, if I had those, the tricks I could play on the other guards. And at this, he sees the guard captain busying himself in the courtyard. Give him a dirty look, and he says, "I'm just kidding, of course. I'd not do any such thing."
No, of course you wouldn't.
Chastain, that would involve you wearing the earrings. You do understand that, yes?
His mouth drops open. A flaw in his plan has been exposed. Right. I suppose they would look much better on Cap or Bridget or Lolani here than me.
And as it so happens, they all have much more useful things to say, don't they? You can give them a clap on the shoulders. Thank you for your efforts.
His body seems to collapse in on itself as you slap him on the shoulder, and he shudders with awe, and he's starstruck that you've actually reached out and touched him, and he just stands there silently for a few seconds, stammering wordlessly until the guard captain calls out, "All right, boy, come on, back to your post," and he shakes himself back to reality and says, "Oh, good luck with the bandits," and then turns and scurries away.
Turn and look at Capier and Bridget and Alana, and I just say, you know, it was him that made that weird, right? That was just an ordinary, that was nothing. That was just him making it weird.
Oh, absolutely. He's a strange boy.
Given Bridget is not very socially adept, she's just going to look blankly and go, what weird?
Okay. Does anybody feel they have a use for these earrings? That use can purely be aesthetic.
Maybe it'd be a good idea to have it between, we seem to have our own halves here. One piece between Llewellyn and myself, and the other piece between you two. And that way, should we get split between either halves of the party, we can communicate with the other.
Can they be split and separated?
They sure can. You only need to wear one of the pair to be linked to the other.
Oh, I missed that.
Well, actually, you could split them, which would allow communication between the two, but if you wish to use them to cast message to someone who's not wearing the earrings, then you would need both, otherwise they'd lose their power. Mm-hmm. But if you split them, then yes, you could each take one of the earrings.
It'd be like a pair of sending stones then.
Essentially, but slightly more limited. You can only use them to cast message.
Neat.
Which is about a sentence worth of information and not a full conversation. But splitting them seems to be a good idea, so I'll ask the question, who wants an earring, and do you want the sword or do you want the shield? I'm sure you, Bridget, probably don't see the point in having bits of metal dangling from your ears, given your background. But when you're told the function they serve, you can't help but admit that it would be handy.
Bridget is really more of a hit things with the bit of metal rather than use bits of metal to speak. So she's not really too interested in them.
I'm already well adorned myself with my own jewelry. Well, then, would you be opposed to wearing them?
Well,
at least one part.
If it's needful, I have no particular feeling about it. Leilani, would you like to wear one?
I think Leilani's on BRB.
Ah, yes, yep. she's dealing with cats. Leilani just shrugs. Let's see how things shake out.
We have a long walk ahead of us. I'm sure we have time to talk about it.
So, Cap, the question now is, which ear gets which earring? You want the sword on the left, or do you want it on the right?
The cap, you said?
Yep, since you're the one who's wearing them for the time being.
Okay. I think I'll take the sword to the right and the shield to the left. Classic right-handed hold for each of those.
You feel, as you slide them on, you feel a sort of static electricity around your face, sort of clinging to your skin, and your brain buzzes. And I'd like you to make me a charisma save, please, Capiera.
Okay. Well, I'm perfectly okay at those with a +6. Ooh, that's a 10 total.
A voice whispers in the back of your mind. False. False. You have real power. I can give you real power. Why cling to these childish adornments?
Capiera finds herself clutching just below her neck over her clothes. It's a bad point. She shakes herself out of the stupor. Where were we?
At this point, everyone else in the party is starting to trudge down the track. Shake yourself back to reality and rush to join them. And we go into the adventure itself. As Capiera runs to catch up with you, you hear the jingle of all her various jewelry, and you all look over your shoulders, and you can't even see the earrings, because Capiera's wearing so many adornments already that they sort of lose themselves in the cacophony of jingling, shining metal.
Various bells and dressings and eye-catching, glittering pieces used in her performances.
But they are working. You can feel the hum of magic, that static electricity around your face. It only takes a few minutes to get used to it. And you hope that whatever you have clasped over your chest won't interfere with its operation. So I'm going to change the map as we set out. You make your way through the town square, and several of the townsfolk look up, watch you pass, mutter amongst themselves, wondering whether they're seeing you for the last time, or whether they dare hope that you'll return victorious, whether they dare hope that the scourge of the bandits is over. And before long, you're out in the wilderness, feeling that, breathing in that familiar, fresh air. Insects chirp, chitter, and buzz within the gently swaying grasses of the surrounding countryside. Various livestock call out, a gentle moo from a cow, a bleat from a goat, clucks from the chickens. People mosey about this calm landscape too. Hammers tinnily plink against nails, sturdy boots trundle through the grass, wooden wheels roll over uneven ground. But within an hour, even they are long behind you, and you find yourselves alone in the seemingly endless, unspoiled wilderness, the black twisting Grendel spires crisscrossing on the horizon ahead. Who is going to lead the party? Imperial Watchtower is to the northeast of town. It's about a day's walk away, give or take, and you'll have to cross the Kaldahar River, which runs through the center of the valley to reach it.
Leilani is pretty good at survival, so she'd probably help.
And while Leilani's navigating, who is bringing up the rear? Who is keeping an eye out for threats?
Well, I mean, I don't know how well he's doing it because he's also playing his lute. He's probably playing toccata and fugue in D minor. But Llewellyn is good at survival and he has some perception, so he'll keep an eye out.
Yeah. As per usual, he lags only a little bit behind Leilani. He's playing his lute, but ready to spring into action at any moment, his eyes scanning the horizon around you for any signs of movement. Leilani, go ahead and roll me a survival check, and Llewellyn, what is your passive perception?
I am using my inspiration.
Yeah, you can use your inspiration, feel free.
No better.
Well, I
14.
was trying to convey that I was providing assistance to...
To Leilani. Yep, so Leilani, you can roll with advantage.
Because
Okay, I'll roll
have
again.
a survival of 14, so... survival of 4, so...
Wait, now that I know this, I'm rolling with advantage now, right?
Yes, yep. Llewellyn is assisting you.
One of those is cocked, but it's 17 is the closest. Plus 5 for, what, 23?
23, very good.
22.
22.
22. Sorry, maths is a bit...
For a couple hours, you trudge through the open grassland, across the hills, and most of the morning passes quickly, without warning. You don't even know how long you've been on the road. You don't even realize how long you've been on the road until finally Leilani signals for you all to halt, points up at the sky where the sun is in its highest point, middle of the noon, and she begins to busy herself preparing rations for lunch. You make a meager meal out of them and then continue on, and a couple hours after lunchtime, you finally come to the Kandahar River, the first obstacle in your journey. The relatively calm river takes on an entirely different countenance as the landscape suddenly dips steeply. As the river rushes over clusters of stones and sudden drops, the water froths, churning and splashing. The air is filled with the roar of these rushing currents as they rampage across the landscape, and there, in the very middle of it all, is a crumbled stone bridge, sundered neatly in two. What would you like to do?
Maybe we should have asked if he had a raft back at the town.
What is the span? What's the distance that we'll have to make up?
You stop at the river's edge, peer down at it, and... Well, the bridge was built here, because this was probably the narrowest portion of the river. But even here, the river is at least 10 to 20 feet wide. It's possible it would get thinner further on, that there would be points where you could ford it. But you could also try to make the crossing here. Either way, the bridge looks like it's been destroyed for quite some time, and it occurs to you that the bandits must have a reliable means of crossing the river without the bridge.
Is there something that we can tie a rope to?
Make me a perception check, please, Llewellyn. Or an investigate check. You may make either.
Because what I'm basically looking for is that if there is a place that we can tie a rope to or something or other, that would make the whole getting across so much safer. end up with a 15.
15. Wonder if it might be possible to get your rope over to the other side. There are a couple things on the opposite bank. There's some gnarled tree stumps and what look like jutting bits of stone that were once part of a wall. There's a base of a building long ago lost to the wilderness, and there is also the bridge itself. Although it's collapsed, there's a jumble of stones in the middle of the river where the middle of the bridge would have been, and by sheer luck, it seems that there's a sandbar, an embankment in the middle of the in the middle of the river, and some of the rubble from the bridge has piled up here.
Can I make what looks like a nice big stout spike?
You could try. It's about
what I'm thinking is, I weigh a lot, which means that the possibility of the river sweeping me away, it's going to have to work its ass off to do that. And if I can get to the middle, to that middle bit where you're talking, I can use my flail and I can drive that spike 3 or 4 feet into the sandbar, attach a rope to it, which would give the smaller folk a little bit of security. I mean, Bridget and I think we would both weigh enough and be large enough to not be. Am I right? Are we?
Seems like a sound plan, but does anyone else have any other ideas?
Cap will shrug her shoulders and produce the 50 feet of silken rope that she has in her pack, and will hand it over to Suellen.
I thank you. That's valuable stuff. Let's just use my crappy old hemp.
You're sure? I mean, it's much a tool for me as it is for anyone.
All right. So
that's
first
worth
order...
a fortune, and that's awesome stuff. This, well, you know, we used to use it with oxen and pigs, so.
And not those hawks? Oh, nothing. Don't stress it.
So the first order of business then, Llewellyn, is getting out onto the embankment in the middle of the river, and about 10 feet or so separate the shore and that embankment. So you still have to get over there. And am I right in assuming that you plan to sort of throw the rope like a lasso, catch it onto the rubble, use that as a counterweight while you get across, and then when you get there, nail the spike down and set up a more sturdy means of crossing?
You see, that would be smart and wise and all that. He plans to hold on to the rope
and just wade through.
And wade through, because, correct me if I'm wrong, Bridget, you're a Goliath and quite powerful, yes?
Yeah, considerably strong.
If you can speak up, I'm still having trouble hearing you.
Yeah. She said yes, she's quite strong and quite big.
So you'd be able, if Llewellyn starts getting just knocked around by the current, you're the one who can probably pull him out. Is that a safe bet?
Most likely, yeah.
Okay.
Try.
Do you want things like my backpack and all that to help give you extra weight?
I would say that will work.
Okay. So they're just going to have a quick little exchange about strategizing. And then he, with his massive advantage on athletics, saving throws and what have you, is going to wade out with a rope.
So, Bridget, before you know it, you have in your arms Llewellyn's backpack and his shield and most of his supplies. And before you have a chance to say anything or begin to redistribute the weight, you see him, shoulders squared, trudging down the decline in the hill towards the riverbank, and he is about to wade through these raging river waters. Is anyone gonna stop him?
You best
Who's
be
holding the
careful.
rope?
That would be Bridget.
All right. Leilani is gonna use her wild shape. She's going to turn into a giant frog and just hold on to the rope.
Hold on to the rope. Yep. Llewellyn, you take...
Did Llewellyn see that Leilani's just turned into a giant frog?
Well, Llewellyn, you're trudging down into the water, and at this point, you've taken your first step into the water, and it's cold, and even though you're clad in armor, it seems to have immediately found all the gaps, and from the knee down, you're smoked.
I think I've probably gone several paces before I've noticed, and I did. Okay,
Yeah.
now you're just taking the piss. Yes, I forgot you could do that.
You're soaked to the bone, and then you hear a loud thwomp, and you look over your shoulder, and rather than seeing Bridget holding the other end of the rope, there is a gigantic reddish toad there on the side of the hill, and its tongue is just lashed to the rope.
Yeah, he's going to accept it as a fair cop, and he's going to finish wading over, and he's going to put the spike in, and says, I forgot, okay? I just saw the problem, and just muttering to himself as he's pounding the spike, gets the rope secured.
Yeah, well, with the frog holding the rope, you have nothing to fear. You get about halfway between the embankment and the shore, and you feel the current pulling you, and you wonder if maybe you miscalculated that if Bridget were holding the rope, she'd be having a hell of a time trying to keep hold of it and stop you from being swept away. But the frog holds it tight and taut, and without trouble, you're able to reach the embankment, nail the spike down, and slide the rope over it, securing it in place. You look back, and now there is an extremely taut rope extended halfway across the river, the other end of it ending in the mouth of a gigantic frog.
Okay, can we extend the support to the other side of the river so that it's all the way across?
You can. However, you're a fair distance away from the frog, but there is a chance, wading across to the other side, that you may be in a bit of danger.
I'm going to send a message to the frog and say, well, I've done half of it. Would you like to take this half over to the other side, pretty please?
The frog lets out a croak, and I presume makes its way to the other side.
First of all, it's going to grab Bridget. Puts Bridget on top and then starts to fucking jump over to the other side.
It just jumps the whole thing. It's just, all right, okay, I totally forgot, all right?
There's like...
Its long jump is 20 feet, so...
Yeah, that might be enough. There's like a scream as Bridget is like nudged and nearly falls to the ground, and then the tongue reaches out.
That's without a running start.
Ah, so you can get a running start with you have Bridget on you, and
would mean that its speed would be the jump speed.
Yeah,
which would
be the jump
feet.
speed. Igor barks, and his tail wags with excitement as he sees his master being swept onto the back of this frog. And if you'd like to, well, you've got Bridget on your back, and you've got Igor trying to scramble on. I would ask you to make an acrobatics check to get that running start.
Oh god, acrobatics.
You are in
Acrobatics
the
is
form...
based on Dex, so it's
Based on
Dex
Dex,
plus
yep.
1. Oh, 17 plus 1, 18.
18. So, Bridget, you're just sitting there and you've barely got a chance to reach out and grab something and hold onto it. And all of a sudden, the frog lurches. You nearly slide straight off, and Igor barks even louder. What do you reach out and grab hold of?
Honestly, Bridget's not even really looking for anything specific, just reaching to grab whatever is within reach that she can get purchase on.
So, Leilani, you feel fingers tightly squeezing the back of one of your eyeballs as Bridget holds on for dear life, and suddenly searing pain shoots through your body as you kick out your strong legs and sail, thump, landing on the other side of the river. And as you land, Bridget's body weight seems to press down, almost pressing you into the earth. And that's when you let out a big croak and throw her and Igor off, and they land sprawling in the dirt. You cough, spit out the rope, and Bridget takes the rope. And Bridget, on this side of the river, there are several things you can tie the rope to. There's a thick oak tree, dead for quite some time, its branches sagging, its trunk bent almost 90 degrees sideways from some damage in a storm. There's what looks like a pile of stones that used to be part of some wall a couple feet away from the shore. Or you could try to make a counterweight of your own.
Leilani has something she would totally be doing.
Go.
She'd be jumping back over to Cat.
Oh, no, that's quite fine. Thank you. I am more than capable of getting across with a tightrope. Thank you.
I would like to bite Cat.
Bite her?
Yeah, I'm gonna try and swallow her.
Ooh, okay. And she protests. Okay.
Attack, I can then I'm gonna do a swallow attack, which is it makes a bite attack against a smaller target. It is grappling. And
swallow her against the other side. Alright, what is your AC, Cap?
I have an AC of 15.
Go for it, Leilani.
Oh god. It's an 8 plus 3.
8 plus 3.
11.
She tried to bite.
The giant frog opens its mouth wide, and you smell something awful in its breath, and that's what alerts you to the fact that Leilani is trying to swallow you whole. You hit the ground and roll out of the way as her mouth closes on the air, unsatisfied.
Llewellyn, pull the rope tight, please. Pull the rope tight.
Oh, it's tight. I've got it. Oh, crap. The rope tight.
All right. Bridget, you're holding the rope on the other side. I'd like you to make an athletics check for me, please.
Is that myself?
That's Bridget, because she's the counterweight on the other side of the shore.
Gotcha.
Well, I would suggest that I've got the rope. It's tied down on the side that Cap is on.
Yes,
and then it's also tied. It's also tied to where I am, and I think Cap is planning to tightrope across that.
Which is why I'm asking Bridget for the check so she can hold it still on her half to make it easier for Cap to get across.
That is a 7.
A 7. You're holding it as best you can. The first half of the river is easy to cross, Capiera. You sort of scamper along the rope like a bird or a cat, and then jump down next to Llewellyn on the embankment, and you call over to Bridget. perhaps not giving her enough time to secure the rope on the other side, and as soon as you clamber on, you feel the rope dip under your weight and begin to wobble as Bridget struggles to hold it still. And Cap, I'd like you to make me an acrobatics check.
I'm happy to do so.
Can Llewellyn make an athletic check to grab Cap off the rope?
If he wants to grab her off the rope, but...
Yeah.
Alright, you can make an athletics check. I'll get Cap to make an acrobatics check, and if the two go well, you should be able to get across... Yeah, Bridget's still in shock after the surprise ticket on the Amphibian Express.
I put in a 12.
14.
14. So the DC was 12, which you did meet, but because Llewellyn is also bracing it from his side, you're able to adjust yourself, Cap, find your footing, and finally you reach the other side, and just as Bridget lets go of the rope, you leap off and land with a flourish in front of her and the giant frog. And then it's Llewellyn's turn. And Llewellyn, with 14 on your athletics, it's easy for you. This time, Capiera takes up the end of the rope, holds it as tightly as she can, and you use the rope to brace yourself as you wade through the raging waters and trudge up onto the opposite bank. You look over your shoulders at the raging waters and realize that this went a lot better than it could have.
Yeah, he's gonna scratch that rope off his inventory and say to the others, I'm thinking we leave the ropes here because we're gonna probably end up having to cross this point 2 or 3 or 4 times in the future. And if we've already got a rope here, then at least, yeah.
Well,
Just
next
an
time we
old
can bring
hemp
another
rope.
rope and then some planks after that, and eventually we'll have a bridge.
Exactly. Exactly.
And so you continue on into the afternoon, walking once more quietly, uneventfully through the wilderness, and after an hour or two, you can see the Imperial Watchtower on the horizon. One of the only remnants of the Imperium of Thule that remains intact, still standing, still able to act as a landmark. This watchtower, even on the horizon, even with several hours yet to come before you get to it, is grand and imposing. If it were not for the gnarled Grendleroots that litter the skyline behind it, the watchtower would command the attention of everything else around it. It seems to dwarf the entire valley. It seems to live up to its name, the watchtower, this big stone edifice, much grander and sturdier than even the Lord's Keep back in Lodingen, just silently watching the hills and grasslands about it, just daring anyone to approach and confront what awaits within. Leilani, I assume you're still taking up the mantle of navigator.
Yeah, she'll keep navigating.
I won't ask you to roll survival again, but this time I'll ask you, and everyone else in the group, to roll perception for me as we do a group perception check.
I have advantage on this.
Hmm.
Yeah, no, I'm
I
going
rolled
to take that.
19.
I'm going to go with a 13, not a 1.
Yeah.
That's a 4.
4.
12.
12.
19 for Capiera.
Yeah, well, Llewellyn and Bridget, both being big, stocky characters, probably don't notice because they're still recovering from their journey across the river and they've got everything weighing them down. And they lag a bit behind Cap and Leilani, who adeptly takes up the mantle of navigator, silently leading the party towards the tower. Thanks to her, you're able to avoid falling into a crevasse, and there's a part where you're crossing between two large hills, and walking between them makes you feel like you're sitting ducks. It'd be an ideal spot for an ambush, but Leilani is always one step ahead. She motions for you to follow her, leads you around those hills, and finds an alternate path through them. And then, as you forge your way through the wilderness, Cap and Leilani, you both catch a whiff of a strange scent, a faint, sour smell on the wind, reminiscent of a fur cloak sodden with dew. You stop to look around, holding your hands up to indicate to the others to halt, but the scent is lost. And then, wait, was that a twig snapping? You look up to your companions, but no further sounds reach your ears, save your own breathing. And then, Cap, after half a minute, you set out again, but you cannot suppress the crawling primal instinct that you're being watched.
That's not good.
Click. Llewellyn slides a bolt into his crossbow, as Adams typed in chat.
Capiera's movements are uneasy and slow, and she motions a finger to pursed lips behind the mask, and just points out towards the surroundings as if to say someone's there.
You look at where Capiera points, but you're surrounded by the hills, the empty, quiet hills, and can see no signs of life, no flickers of movement, no ambushes getting into position. Shing! Bridget's sword comes out, and Bridget, you're saying you're using the right on your sword. Which right is that?
It's the blood right of the storm.
Preparing yourself. And the blade of the sword crackles with electricity as you prepare for what is to come. Any other preparations you'd like to make?
Leilani turns into a frog again.
Oh, wasn't aware she stopped being a frog. Oh, wait, she was leading the group, yep.
Well, it would have been more than an hour, so she would have reverted back.
The fat, big red frog just blinks back into existence, ready to swallow something else, and that's when all hell breaks loose. Everyone, roll for initiative, please.
Can do.
That's a 19 on initiative.
19 on
13 for
initiative.
me.
That's a
13.
soft 20.
Ooh, 20 for Leilani. And Llewellyn, how about you? So I will say, rolled a 6, so it's a 5. Poor Llewellyn. Maybe that rusty old armor is holding him back.
No, that's all genetics.
So, if Cap and Leilani hadn't caught that whiff of something on the air that alerted them that you're not alone, the enemy would be taking a surprise round right now, but you're ready for them, and so we go straight into combat. A bristle of blood-caked hair forms a matted ridge running from the creature's canine head over its hunched back and under its hide armor. Spotted fur stained with filth and gore covers the parts of the body you can see. A toothy maw, dog-like legs ending in clawed paws, and human-like arms that wield weapons with surprising agility. The dog-faced man raises his head to the sky, lets out a hyena-like cackle, is met with others in turn as another beast man and then another come charging over the hills towards you. The band of gnolls spots their prey and moves in for the kill. Let me just get the correct map up. All right, Leilani, you're first to go. What would you like to do?
Doki. Oh, she is a giant frog.
Indeed. Which I believe makes her size a bit bigger.
She becomes a medium beast.
Which was already medium, so there we go. That's fine. What would you like to do?
Yeah, she's going to move her 30 feet. So she's going to move 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 feet.
The huge frog bounds down the trail, and the hills seem to shudder with each landing. Anything else you'd like to do?
That's all she can do as a frog.
For now?
Yeah.
All right. Bridget, you're up.
Bridget is also going to make a straight beeline for the gnolls.
Charge as far as she can, and a few seconds later, you're standing beside the huge frog. The gnolls seem to be taking shelter behind some chunks of stone and some trees up ahead. Do you have a ranged weapon, Layla? Do you have a ranged weapon, Bridget?
I do. However, the greatsword is the weapon that's had at the moment.
Yep, so unfortunately you can't attack them this round. Alright, and then Capiera, you're up. Oh, you might be muted, Triss.
Oh, pardon me, sorry.
I think I saw your token moving. Yeah, go ahead.
What Cap will do is move the 25 feet to here.
Joining the others.
Yep, and then she's going to hold action on casting the spell Color Spray when 3 or more gnolls get in range.
Ooh, cool. You join others at the base of the hill and watch and wait to see what will happen next. And Llewellyn, you're up last. Oh, wait, no, Llewellyn, you don't go yet because I rolled initiative for the gnolls and it looks like they just beat you. The beastmen, the beastmen still cackling like hyenas, charge forwards. They see the 3 of you gathered around the base of the hill. The 2 gnolls that seem to be wearing armor and weapons take up positions behind the chunks of boulder, fish javelins out of a quiver on their backs and hurl them down the hill. Gnoll number 1 will throw a javelin at Bridget, rolling with advantage. And Bridget, that'll be a 16.
That hits.
Thwack! The javelin hits you right in the center of your chest. Luckily, it's dull enough that it doesn't pierce your armor, but the impact nearly knocks you off your feet as you take 3 points of damage. Then, the second gnoll moves up. Like his friend, he fishes a crude javelin out of his quiver, takes aim, and seeing Capiera begin the preparations of a spell, hurls it in her direction. And Capiera, that will be a 15 to hit you.
That just meets my AC, unfortunately.
Crash! The javelin hits you right in the arm, and you take 4 points of piercing damage. Scramble back into place and continue your preparations for your spell. Now the other gnolls around the crest in the hill. These other 4 slightly stunted looking gnolls. None of them wear any clothing, not even a patch of it. And none of them seem to brandish any weapons, instead snarling like beasts as they charge blindly down the hill towards you. And that will be 1, 2, 3, 4, all charging out. And Cap, your color spray spell is ready to go off.
Fantastic. Let me see which one of these I can catch. 15. They're not within range there, unfortunately.
Well, you want to hold it until they just get into range?
Yes, please.
You want 3 or more to be in range. Okay.
That's correct.
So the feral gnoll, the first, rushes and charges down towards Leilani, putting him in your cone. The second one rushes towards you and Bridget, putting him in the cone. And the third one also rushes towards Bridget, putting him in the cone. The fourth one won't be in range of your spell. He's going somewhere else, but there are 3 there, and your spell goes off.
Fantastic.
What do they need to roll to save?
They need to roll a Constitution saving throw, 14, or they'll be blinded until the end of my next turn. As Capiera pulls out that silken rope that she had before, that's weaved with various colors within it, and with a flashing of the rope along her body as it's pulled through her hands and along her body deftly, it pulls at the weave and has a burst of flashing colors at the gnoll's eyes.
2 of the gnolls immediately roar in frustration and clutch their clawed hands to their eyes, blinded by the display. But the third one seemingly not noticing anything, is distracted by the dancing lights for only a fraction of a second before he continues his charge, tearing down the hill towards Leilani in her frog form. He is going to make an attack, and that will be, Leilani, a 15 to hit you.
15 hit me.
The claws rake at your slimy skin, and you take 7 points of slashing damage. Unfortunately, your werewolf trait is not in effect while you're wild-shaped, so that will be 7 points full, not halved. Feral gnoll number 4, who is just out of the range of the colour spray, dances around the shimmering lights, and seeing that they seem to be coming from Capiera, charges nearly on all 4s down the trail towards you, Cap. He flails his claws in your direction, and that will be a 13 to hit.
That does not hit.
You duck as the great claw slashes the air above you, and then the blinded ghouls, the 2 remaining blinded ghouls, gather around Bridget, screaming and flailing their arms wildly, trying to hit something, anything, through the glittering lights. The first one, Bridget, rolls, blinded, rolling with disadvantage, a 13.
That meets it and beats it.
Ooh. You brace your greatsword ready to deflect, but the gnoll doesn't seem to be aiming for you in particular. He's just running forwards, batting at the colours, and he manages to catch you on the backswing of one of his swipes. You wince as you take 4 points of slashing damage. The third one bares his teeth and snarls and leaps at you, or what he can see of you, trying to bite you, but with disadvantage he rolls an 11. You whirl around Bridget, your great sword ready, and like a baseball player, thwack, knock him out of the air. He shrieks in pain as he sprawls in front of you and then scrambles back for cover. And then, Llewellyn, you are up.
Llewellyn is he throws a glance over his shoulder to the left, where we would have had a fair bit of cover, and he moved. I'm just going to make sure that I've got the distance right. Oh yeah, he can easily walk up and hit. This guy is attacking from the rear, and he's just gonna haul out and basically clobber him with the glaive.
You join the fight at the base of the hill, but let's see if you actually manage to hit something.
I'm having trouble getting the come on, D&D Beyond, come on.
Every D&D player's greatest enemy.
It was having problems yesterday in Carrion Crown too.
Well, yeah, I had the same issue. Okay, there we go. So he is going to hit the gnoll with misfortune, his flail.
Still feels a little unnatural in your hands, but you've gotten used to it enough.
I don't know that I can tell in this particular instance because I've rolled a nat 20. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to fire off a divine smite with that, so that it's going to be a thunderous smite. So that's going to be 2d8 plus 4d6 plus 3.
Yeah. And so, but you did crit, so the damage from the weapon will be maxed and roll again, and then you also get the thundering smite.
Yeah, that's what I'm. So the flail. That's 16. That's the flail does 19 points of damage, and then the divine smite adds an extra 15.
If you ever thought that Llewellyn always looked a little uncomfortable with that flail, he doesn't in this moment. He rushes up to the base of the hill, raises the flail and swings it, and the weapon seems to shine with pure light as there's a loud crack. The air smells like gristle very suddenly, and there's a yelp as the gnoll falls to the ground in a heap, struck dead instantaneously by the blow.
My Llewellyn, Dwayne never described that.
And then we loop back around to Leilani.
Leilani, in her frog form, is going to try and bite Feral Gnoll 2.
One right in front of her. Go ahead.
That's an 11 to hit.
That's just enough to hit him.
Okay.
You're going to go for the
He
swallow
takes
as well?
3 piercing damage and is grappled. No, the swallow is a separate action.
Yes. So you're just going to bite him
So I
and
have to do that
grapple him
next
in
turn.
the tongue? Yep.
Mm-hmm. He is now restrained.
There's another yelp and a croak as your long, sticky tongue whips out, and just as he's about to claw at your face, wraps around his arm, drags him off his feet and pulls him towards you. He struggles and fights but can't pull himself free. His fur bloodied and mattered as he cuts himself on stones, being dragged along the dirt. Anything else would you like there that you would like to do, Leilani?
You know what? I'm going to do a standing leap.
With him
I'm
still
going to
grappled.
use, because it's got a high jump of up to 10 feet, right?
Sure can.
So I'm going to high jump 10 feet in the air and then move, like as part of the jump, 10 feet away.
Away, yep, dragging him with you. Yep.
I'm just going to drag him over here.
Yeah, the frog's legs spring and its bulbous body launches up into the air, and the gnoll screams, still wrapped in the tongue, and the frog lands with a thump and a thud as the gnoll is slammed into the hard dirt, taking a point of damage. And then we go to Bridget. You're up.
Bridget is going to swing with a greatsword at Feral Gnoll 3.
The one right in front of her. Go ahead.
That is a 14 to hit.
14 hits. Go ahead, roll the damage, and don't forget your right as well.
That is 15 from the sword and 3 from the Riot of the Storm.
Yeah, 18 altogether. You wait for the knoll to open himself up and then move in, and with a single swing, whoosh, nearly cut him in twain. The electricity bouncing off your blade, charring his skin as he screams and falls before you. Anything else, Bridget?
Bridget is just going to move to get into
Move to the
range
next
with
one.
Feral Knoll 1.
Yep. The other feral knoll doesn't seem to notice that two of his friends are being cut down. He snarls hungrily, getting down onto all fours to chase the giant frog. You turn, ready your weapon, and run after him. And then, Capiera, what would you like to do?
Capiera, I think, is going to lash out with her rapier at Feral Knoll 2. Now, they are blinded, I believe.
They are, so it will be with advantage.
Fantastic.
And also, one of them's grappled. Feral Knoll 2 is grappled in the long, sticky tongue of the frog.
Restricted.
Right. Okay. So, rapier plus. That's a 25 to hit. I assume it does.
Yeah, it's definitely a hit.
Alrighty. Let's see what damage we get out of this. We're going to be doing 9 points of piercing damage.
9 points of piercing damage. He's already taken damage from Leilani, and so you step up, and as he fights against the tongue, you stab the rapier down, skewering him through his throat. Crimson blood sprays up in the air, covering your mask and the front of your clothing, and Leilani, suddenly your mouth tastes like raw meat.
I swallowed a meat.
Loop. The frog just gulps, and the blood is consumed hungrily. Is there anything else you would like to do, Capiera?
I think that is all I will take for my turn. No. Capiera will dance around the spot, definitely making her way around Feral Knoll 1 to...
Yeah, to flank.
To perhaps offer advantage to my companion.
Meeting Bridget's eyes on the other side of the rampaging beast man. She meets your gaze and nods and prepares to attack. And then it's the enemy's turn. Knoll number 2, still hiding behind the debris at the top of the hill, fishes another javelin out and hurls it down towards Sir Llewellyn to avenge its fallen underling. And it will be rolling with advantage because it has the high ground. Sir Llewellyn, that will be a 19 to hit you.
That hit.
You swing your shield around, but it's a second too slow, and the javelin slams into your chest plate, nearly knocking you off your feet. You take 8 points of piercing damage.
Okay, I just,
Yes?
I just realized.
What
Can
did
I
you-
instead go ahead and cast Shield of Faith?
As a bonus, well, you wouldn't have had time last turn because you cast the smite, and that's a bonus action.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So, but
So you can't use a bonus action as a reaction.
you can. Let me see. Yeah, I'll allow you to cast Shield of Faith as a reaction, but you won't have a bonus action next turn.
Oh, I understand that. Then I'm gonna. Oh, but does that mean I would be able to? Because I use. Oh yeah, it's the next turn. I'm in the next turn, so I have my bonus and my reaction for this round. I just haven't had. Haven't come up with it. Yes, okay. I'm gonna Shield of Faith that.
Yeah, and will that be enough to deflect it?
Armor class 20.
Yeah. It seems to happen without you being consciously aware of it, Llewellyn. You stare the javelin right as it comes towards you, realize it's going to strike you in the chest, knock you off your feet, but you grip your shield in one hand, your flail in the other, and then suddenly there's a flash of light, and as the javelin strikes your chest plate, it ricochets off as if there's a wall of solid force hovering just in front of where your heart would be. And a voice whispers in the back of your mind, "Yes, my boy, yes. Just like the heroes of old. Just like the bloodline former glory." Knoll number 1, seeing Capiera slide around to flank one of his underlings, bellows an angry roar, and he charges ahead straight towards her, a gigantic spear in his hand, and as he reaches you, Capiera, with supernatural speed, he plunges the spear at your body, and that will be an 18 to hit.
That does in fact hit.
The spear finds you just below your right elbow, hits you and draws blood, and you scream in pain as the gnoll pulls it back, ripping the spearhead out. Blood drips down onto the grass as you take 8 points of piercing damage.
Ooh.
And then Llewellyn, oh wait, no, there's one feral ghoul left, one feral gnoll left. He is blinded, and in his blinded state, he's just going to continue flailing his arms in Bridget's direction. And Bridget, that will be a 12 to hit.
Luckily, it does not hit.
There's a crack of breaking bone as you bring the flat of the greatsword down on his arm, deflecting his blow. He yelps in pain. And then, it is Llewellyn's turn.
Well, Llewellyn is going to... he's going to move... What is the range of a what is the range of a hand crossbow? Oh, it's 30. Damn it. Okay. Yeah, looks like I'm gonna have to play ball. He's going to go ahead and he's gonna move. He's gonna move 15 feet. He's gonna move 20 feet there.
Up to the base of the hill.
Yeah, he's right there. Yep. And then he's just gonna aim the hand crossbow at the guy who threw the javelin at him, which is, I guess, Knoll number 2. And it's going to be really slow and deliberate about it. He wants the guy to watch him shoot him.
If he can hit him, he's behind cover. He gets a bonus to his AC, but go ahead.
Oh, and I'm also a terrible, terrible shot. So that's going to be... I have accidentally rolled the wrong dice. Hang on a second.
It's okay.
Alright. Okay, so I only get to add +1 to this. I have rolled another nat 20.
Oh, fantastic.
Ooh, very nice. He pokes his head around the corner of the piece of boulder to check where you are, and you've been waiting. Your finger tightens on the trigger at this moment, and click! The crossbow fires, and the bolt hits him right above his right eye. The smallest possible window to hit him, and you manage to pull it off with aplomb. How much damage are we looking at?
Well, bearing in mind that I have to subtract 1 from it, it's only 9.
Aww.
The arrow doesn't go in, doesn't pierce his skull, doesn't instantly kill him, but it sears the fur off underneath his ear, draws blood and he yelps and bellows in anger, quickly pulling his head back in behind the slab of rock. And you, Llewellyn, for what it's worth, you're just amazed you hit the thing.
Yeah, I'm staring at the hand crossbow. First I'm hearing voices, and now I'm actually hitting with a crossbow. Go figure.
Could be something divine looking out for you. Is there anything
I
else
was
you
about to
would
say
like
the
to do?
Yeah, he's just shaking his head in surprise, and he transfers the flail back into his hand. The others seem to have those two sorted. He's going to go and deal with number 2.
Number 2, yep. And we loop back around. Leilani, you're up.
Okay, Leilani is going to, move in Feral No 1. And it's just gonna do a bite.
Just like his friend, go ahead.
That's a 17 to hit.
That is definitely a hit. And also, he is
And
blinded,
he takes
so you
7
could...
piercing damage.
I was going to say, if you want to roll again, see if you get a crit, feel free.
No, didn't get a crit.
No. Alright.
It does 7 piercing to him.
That is, he
And
grappled?
he's grappled.
Yeah, you chomp down on his arm, and then as he recoils, your tongue lashes out, wraps around his torso, and pulls him towards you. And he kicks and screams every inch of the way, but still has a lot of fight in him somehow, as you pull him closer and closer to your gaping maw. Anything else?
That's it. I'm just gonna hold him there.
Just hold him there, just ready for everyone else. Sure.
Yeah.
Alright, Bridget, you're up next.
Bridget is going to try and step around Feral Null 1, just to
Sure
get
can.
within reach of Null 1.
Yep, you step into
And-
the shade of a nearby tree, which is just behind the creature.
And she's going to swing for Null 1.
Trying to hit the big guy behind him. Go ahead. And I would say he counts as flanked because Capiera is there, so go ahead and roll with advantage.
That would be a 14 to hit.
14 to hit. You swing your greatsword. It doesn't find a target. He whirls around at the last moment, just before the blade was about to slam into his rib cage, and kicks out with a leg, hitting the hilt of the sword and knocking your blow off course by an inch. Is there anything else you would like to do?
Not at the moment, no.
Filthy creature looks into your eyes, his own eyes bulging red with hatred, his panting heavy as he prepares to make a counter-attack. But Cap gets to go first. She might be able to stop him.
And she will try to lash out with the rapier to try and stop him in his tracks.
Go ahead, roll with advantage to hit him. He is flanked.
Fantastic. That is a excuse me, sorry. That is a 21 to hit.
Yeah, that's definitely a hit. Go ahead.
Oh, max damage. He's going to take 12 points of piercing damage.
Ooh, very nice. He's straightening up after dodging Bridget's blow, and that's when you take your chance. You run forwards and thrust the blade into his rib cage. You don't quite manage to run him through, but you draw blood. He screams, pulls himself away, and his mouth is flecked with spittle and froth as he pants and chooses to go after you instead.
If I may,
Yep.
I will yell out, Llewellyn, we could use a hand here, if you may. And I'll be giving him a bardic.
Ah, yes, for his turn. The knoll in front of you lifts his snout to the heavens and roars, licking spittle and grime and blood off his muzzle as he once again raises his spear and tries to stick it right where your heart is.
I'm in danger.
Capiera. Cap, that's going to be, luckily for you, a nat 1.
Oh, goodness.
As he plunges the spear, as he plunges the spear forwards, he doesn't notice the little knotted tree root in front of him. The tip of his foot is caught in it, and he stumbles, giving you just enough time to step backwards as the spearhead stops mere centimeters from where your body was, a fraction of a second ago. And then it is Feral Knoll 1's turn. He's thrashing against the frog's tongue, biting and flailing his arms, and he's just going to try to attack Leilani. He's going to roll with disadvantage. Leilani, that'll be a 15 with disadvantage.
15 will hit.
The knoll roars with anger and then sinks his teeth into your tongue. You take 5 points of piercing damage and pain shoots through every neuron in your froggy brain.
Okay.
Then it's Llewellyn's turn, and Llewellyn, you hear Cap's voice trailing on the wind and feel empowered. Everything has gone well for you so far in this fight. Everything is going to continue to go well. You feel invincible. What will you do next?
Well, they're asking for help. He's muttering, but there's three. Oh. And he's going to walk up behind this knoll and smash him in the back of the head.
Yep, roll with advantage.
is looking terribly bloodied, to be fair.
He's only just now noticing that you guys have been smacked around, because he hasn't taken any. He's absolutely fine. And so he is going to haul out. I don't believe it.
Another nat 20.
It is, in fact...
Seriously?
I am going to go ahead. I should have screenshot all three of these. But I've only just screenshotted that one.
Watch it never happen again. Watch this stroke of luck happen on this random encounter and then never again.
I normally don't get the kind of luck.
I think it's happened to me once.
That's 3 in a row. Okay, well, this guy's already been wounded, hasn't he?
He's taken 12 damage from Bridget, so he's not looking in the best shape, and as he sees you running towards him, he just lets out this long, laboured gasp. But he can still survive.
Okay, so that's going to be a total of 11 plus 12. Do I need to add a Divine Smite to finish him?
You do not. Cap, you see this knoll bearing down at you. 1 second it's there, and it's so close to you that you can see its teeth and you can feel the warmth of its smelly, stinking breath, the scent of rotting flesh. And then there's a sickening crush, and the tip of Llewellyn's flail smashes its skull to bits like a watermelon. Its body slams to the ground, twitches once, and moves no longer.
Llewellyn, timely as always.
And then we loop back around to Leilani. Who's still got one in her mouth. And there she is. She's come back. How?
Yes, but the knoll made the mistake of biting her.
Yes.
That's going to have now pissed off Leilani.
Yeah, well, it's her turn now. What would she like to do?
Do I still have the knoll in my mouth?
You still got him. He didn't break free. He managed to bite you, but he's still
Alright,
restrained.
Well, I'm gonna perform a swallow by doing a bite attack.
Mm.
I'm gonna use my inspiration. Finally. Every time I've gone to use it, I've had advantage.
This might be the
Okay.
time.
13 plus 3 to hit for 16.
16. Ooh, that'll do it.
He is swallowed and the grappled ends. He is now blinded and restrained. And he takes 2d4 acid at the start of each of the frog's turns.
Yeah, at the start of each of your turns, you open your maw wide and pull your tongue in, and he's nearly free. He's about to bite down again when suddenly your mouth closes around him. He finds himself drenched in saliva, suffocated by your flesh. You can feel him kicking and pulling and moving in your mouth, and then whoop, you swallow him whole, and he's now fighting against your stomach acid. It's a rather odd feeling. You've never swallowed something quite as big as a knoll before, and it almost feels like somebody's dancing in the pit of your gut.
You know, if I had to say that this wasn't the first time that my party has won a combat with Vor, would that surprise you?
There's still one knoll left. And the knoll that remains doesn't seem to notice that the rest of his pack are destroyed. He's still cowering, hiding behind that slab of rock, waiting for a chance to make his move. And so we go on to Bridget. Bridget, what would you like to do?
Bridget is going to basically just make a beeline for Knoll 2.
Yep,
How
you're gonna-
tall is the cover?
It's tall enough. It's small enough that you can scramble over it, but I will require an athletics check if you want to do it and attack on this turn.
Okay, I will do that. That's a 16 on athletics.
Nice. You scramble over the base of a crumbling wall and confront the knoll on the other side. He whirls around, spear in one hand, shield in another, ready to face you.
Okay, and Bridget is going to use the Blood Maledict amplified, so taking a little bit of necrotic damage myself there.
A wave of weakness shoots through your body as you call upon the blade, but it only lasts for a second. You blink once, shake your head, and it passes, and you're back on top of your game, ready to fight. The blade now soaked in a deep, bloody red. Go ahead, roll to hit.
That is a natural 20.
Oh, another one. No, here we go. Fantastic. Let's see if he survives. You can hear a lot of dice being stacked up.
Why couldn't we have gotten this luck when we go to face the tower?
Okay,
Yes.
so with the Hemocraft die, that is 24 damage.
24 damage.
Oh.
Well, would you like to narrate how you kill him?
Bridget is just going straight up for a decapitation.
Straight up. The gnoll readies his spear, raises it, about to thrust it forwards, and you snarl back at him, a bestial roar of your own. There's a flash of metal, and then the gnoll's head is flung off his shoulders, catapulted through the air, down into the chasm below, and his headless body just stands there holding the spear for a fraction of a second before it crumples and falls, landing in a heap in front of you. Suddenly, all is quiet. You look around, breathing deeply, grunting in exertion, and you cannot believe that you managed to fend off a pack of gnolls.
Llewellyn mutters and gets out his healing kits and says, okay, let's go over there. There's a nice bit right there. We can sit in the sun and I can stitch up some of these wounds. Maybe get a brew up going, make some tea.
Coffee for me, but thank you. Well, yes, I think having more of my sanguine inside of myself than out would be better.
You all join Llewellyn at the base of an overarching cliff there in the cool shade. You recuperate as he fishes his medical supplies out of his bag and gets to work.
Now, the way it works, just in case, my understanding is that we are sticking with legacy, not the new stuff. Is that correct?
For the most part, yes.
Okay, so just to refresh everybody's memory, because this is one of those feats that people don't seem to be up to date on, is that it's a it's healing. You have a feat, you use the feat, and you use a use out of a healer's kit, and you get D6 plus 4 plus the number of plus 1 per level of the person being healed. So you guys were all second level, so that's going to be D6 plus 6 hit points. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so Capiera, you get 12.
Oh, wow. I am back up to full.
The wound isn't as severe as you thought it was. There's a lot of blood for what turns out to be a relatively superficial cut, and Llewellyn dresses it and bandages it.
And points to, he's going to point over to Leilani and says, if you ask nice, I am sure that Leilani will have something that'll keep that from getting infected. Bridget, have you been hit?
Yeah, Leilani lets out a croak, and a thoroughly dead, thoroughly soaked to the core gnoll just rolls out of her mouth onto the dirt.
Bridget, you are going to get 9 hit points back.
That is most of my hit points, not all, but close.
I'm gonna round that. Oh, bugger, Leilani, you get 7.
Again, Leilani's at full. No need to use it.
Yes, because she's wild-shaped, yes.
Oh, okay,
Yes.
well that's very useful. Okay, how much are you off full, Bridget?
I've got just a few hit points off.
Yes, but how many?
Like 3.
Okay, then he's gonna lay on hands and give you 3.
He bandages your wound, and then he presses the palm of his hand against it, and it's almost like the cut seems to seal itself as the skin grows and wraps back around it, and even the pain you're feeling miraculously melts away. As you attend to this, Igor is off on the other side of the trail, nosing around the bodies of the dead gnolls. After a few minutes, he begins to wag his tail and barks excitedly, nosing at one of the armor-clad gnoll leaders.
Drag the bodies out to where we can get a good look at them. Nice bright sunshine.
Only takes 10, 20 minutes. The gnolls are fairly heavy, but they're dead. All we have to do is drag their dead weight down from the hill out into the trail. And the feral ones are wearing nothing. They don't even have a pouch to carry food. They're completely stark naked, but the other two, the two that seemed to be leading the group, are clad in patchwork hide and leather. Their bows, their javelins, and their spears don't appear to be in particularly good repair, but each of them wears around his waist a large leather sack, bulging with various items. Empty the sacks out into the middle of the trail, and several gold pieces and other knickknacks drop down at your feet, but perhaps most interesting of all is a single scrap of dirty, bloodied parchment.
Well, what has unraveled here? Cap says, pulling at the parchment.
Hold it up to the light, and you recognize the letters on it, but not the words. It's not written in common. Does anyone, by any chance, speak either Gnoll or Undercommon?
Yes.
Oh, what? Undercommon? Why do you know Undercommon?
Same way he speaks deep speech.
Strange man.
It's a surprise to you that Llewellyn, of all people, recognizes the words on the paper. He snatches it from your hand, peers down on it, and Llewellyn, you do not like what you read upon the parchment. For it says only a single sentence, but the meaning of that sentence causes frustration and anger to boil under the surface. It reads, "When you see them, kill them all. Kill them all, and our deal remains in place." It isn't signed, and there's no identifying mark of the person who wrote it. You peer down at the scattered gold coins and other knickknacks that the paper was found within, and it occurs to you that perhaps these were intended as a kind of payment. Counting it all up, there's 100 gold pieces altogether, plus various other things such as gold rings, gemstones, and Llewellyn, I will say that these various knickknacks look very particularly like the sort of thing you would expect bandits to take from people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's gonna look at the other three and he's gonna say, well, look, we've got some loot, which is great. It does look like these gnolls were told to kill somebody on sight. I'm kind of guessing that it's us.
That seems fairly obvious. Looking
Capiera.
around, surveying the carnage.
Capiera laces her fingers between her hands and holds them close to her chest. In excitement, oh, what a thrilling twist. We seem to have some sort of secret admirer out there. Out for our very hearts on the end of a bloodied spear.
As you say this, Cap, you can't help but notice that huge edifice of a tower there on a hill on the horizon, peering down at you and all that has unfolded, and you think you know exactly where you could find that secret admirer.
It seems that we're going to make short work of this mystery. She bows her head towards the tower.
At this point in the day, the sun is beginning to slowly slide down the sky and retreat to its hiding place beyond the hills. There's still plenty of daylight. The skies above are still blue, but it's a deeper, darker blue. The blue that you know will soon turn to violet, then to pink, then to red, then to darkness. And so I will ask a question. If you take the time to take a short rest now, night will fall by the time you get to the tower. Otherwise, if you forgo the chance to rest and investigate these gnolls further, you will be able to get to the tower while there is still daylight.
I don't think I want to be left out in the dark for any more trudges of gnolls or bandits to come across us, frankly.
Well, I'm happy to go with and deal with whatever all of your preferences are.
I would like, Bridget, as you are the blood hunter, I'd like you to make an insight check for me, please.
That is a 7. I think I used up my luck on that nat 20.
7? I'll give you some information. You peer around at the piles of gnoll bodies in front of you, and there's only 6 of them, and well, you've never quite hunted gnolls before, but you have a passing familiarity with them as a blood hunter, and you know that as far as a hunting pack goes, 6 is not a particularly high number. You wonder how it was that they planned to take you out at all with such low numbers, and then it occurs to you that perhaps the gnolls weren't supposed to kill you at all, that perhaps they were simply meant to serve as a distraction.
Bridget is going to share that revelation with the rest of the party.
Distraction? Distract us from what exactly?
Well, if she'd rolled higher on her insight, I might have provided more, but either way, the gnolls are dead, and the tower looms ahead, so you must make a choice of whether or not you wish to proceed.
I still believe we head onwards.
We're on full hit points, and another way of looking at what Bridget has told us is that the gnolls' job was to delay us. I suspect if we do allow them to delay us, we won't like the results.
I don't want to give them any chance to prepare for.
I didn't quite hear what you said, sorry.
Pardon me, I said I don't want to give them any chance to prepare for us.
Shall we head on?
Agreed.
And
Chloe
so-
awaits us.
And so it is. You gather your things once more, take one last look at the gnolls that waylaid you, pathetic, broken beasts, and begin to trudge ahead towards the shadow of the tower in the distance. And even now, as we cut away, somebody watches, somebody concealed in the thick brush that lines the top of one of the cliffs, somebody clad in the leather armor and black hood that marks them as a member of the bandits. And he watches as 4 adventurers trudge into the distance, leaving the gnolls dead, defeated, and routed. He looks up at the tower in the distance, and a bead of sweat running down his brow. He realizes time is short. Shit, 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 he says under his breath as he turns and runs, sprinting as fast as he can towards the silhouette of the tower to warn the bandits that you are on your way, that they will not have time to prepare, and that by the time night falls tonight, either the bandits or the heroes will have met their end.